welcome. It has been a minute since the last time I've done a live stream. I did a series this summer, and I'm back. Took a little bit of a break, but I'm back to writing again, writing this book. Don't bring box macaroni to the cookout. That's coming soon. I signed a deal with Solution Tree, so I'm excited to share with you what I'm learning, the research that I'm doing as we move along. I'm not going to hold you too long today, and I'm not going to spend too much time with the pleasantries, the beginning stages or whatnot. I want to get right into today's topic because I'm really excited for today. So let me pull up my slides here. Let's see if I can get this going here. Oh, I forgot to put present screen. Let's do that here. Share screen real quick. Hang on. Like I said, it has been a little bit of time since the last time I have done a live stream. So I'm just let me get that set up. That's my bad. There we go. All right. Here we are. Today's topic is believed to achieve the influence of social learning. I put leading. Oh, my bad. Should be learning in education. Look at this. Many times when I read this presentation, I still got typos. All right, don't judge. Let's skip to the next slide. Okay. All right. As always, remember, current book that's out is Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students. That is currently available. Make sure you get you a copy. And do me a favor, if you did get one off of Amazon, shoot me a quick, not shoot me, but put a quick review. That'd be helpful for the book sales as well. So the current book is Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students. And don't forget to do that. Also, as always, please subscribe to the channel as well. It means a lot. All right. Now we are going to be talking about believe to achieve, but this is part of a 4-part series. Okay. I am doing 4 for the next 4 weeks, I guess. And then I'll take a little bit of a break, and then I'll come back with some more live streams as well. So today, believe to achieve the influence of social learning in education. We'll be talking about social learning theory. Next week, we'll be talking about get this out of your head. You're never completely done learning. And then February 1st, we'll be back. Not taking a stance is taking a stance. And then the last session in this 4-part series is the fear of not doing it right. Okay. We'll be talking about that. I'm excited to share all of this research, all this information. I'm excited to share this with you. So again, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you can keep up each week, and click that bell so you can get notified as well. All right, let's get into it. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about social learning theory and our beliefs, connecting beliefs to student achievement. Then we're going to wrap things up. You know me, I like to give you strategies. So we're going to wrap things up with the impact in educational settings. How we're going to sum all this together, how all this impacts educational setting. And keep in mind, the way that this is going to be framed, all of this is going to be framed from a sense of belonging standpoint. And if you have followed me from before, you know a sense of belonging. The formula is very simple. In order for a student to have a sense of belonging, they must have 3 things. They must feel accepted, supported, and included within their school environment. So all of that today is going to be centered around that formula: accepted, supported, and included. All right. So what contributes to our beliefs? Well, I'm going to start with a quote. What people think, believe, and feel affects how they behave. The natural and extrinsic effects of their actions, in turn, partly determine their thoughts, patterns, and effective reactions. That's why this is so important. What we believe affects how we behave. All right. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of research, a little bit of background. You know how I do. I'm going to introduce you to this man. You may have heard of him before. Dr. Albert Bandura was a social psychologist. Okay. And he did a lot of work. Now, a few things I want to share about The social learning theory is what he's known for. Now, you might have heard of behaviorism. Behaviorism is essentially, you think about positive reinforcement, you think about, you get rewards, you think about how, if I do these type of things, then I get maybe some intrinsic rewards, which intrinsic means, I'm doing this for myself, right? Going to the gym, losing weight, that's intrinsic. I'm not doing anything beyond that. It's just I want to feel good about myself. Maybe I'm worried about my health, but there's no competition. There's nothing there. But the extrinsic piece, right? The reward from doing, going to the gym is you might want to compete. You might want to get on stage. You might want to do some bodybuilding things, right? And in order to compete, you're wanting to maybe do these diets and workout, things like that, so that you can win an award, win first place, win overall. Okay, so that's the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Now, Bandura felt like, all right, I believe in this, but I don't think that this is the only way people learn. He felt like, there's other things that might play a factor in regards to how we tend to learn things. Okay, so what he did was he did a series of studies called the Bobo doll experiment. So down there in the corner of the screen there, you see the little doll, the little punching bag doll. So what he did, I'm not going to go into too much detail into it. There's some research that you can do on your own, or you can read my book when it comes out. Don't bring box macaroni to the cookout. You can read that later, all right? Because it'll be more detailed in there. But essentially, what he did was he had kids, put them in a room with toys, right? And then he would have adult actors come into those rooms and essentially just beat up the doll, the Bobo doll, and mistreat the doll, maybe even scream and yell at the doll. So what he learned from these observations was that a lot of kids would behave or mimic that behavior that those adults were doing. So when the kids were alone with those Bobo dolls, they would do very similar things. Okay, now he did a lot of series of studies, and what he determined from that was people tend to learn based off of what they've seen, right? They see how someone behaves, and depending on the reaction that comes from that behavior, they might want to incorporate those behaviors themselves. And you got to follow me because I'm going to share why all of this makes so much sense from a sense of belonging standpoint. Okay, now essentially, we learn by example. Let me give you a classroom situation. Imagine you're in a classroom, or maybe your students are sitting in the classroom. Maybe you got first graders, second graders, third graders, and they're in your classroom, and they, beginning of the school year, you've already given them the classroom protocols. Okay, this is what you do when you need to sharpen your pencil. You raise your hand and you go and do your thing. All right, sharpen your pencil, come back, blah, blah, blah. I remember when I taught second grade, what I used to do was I said, you throw up a number one finger, that meant that you needed to sharpen your pencil. You need to get up or throw something away. If you throw up a number two, that meant that you might need to, you might actually have a question, so I could kind of tell, like we had hand signals when I taught second grade, right? And so when a classmate sees one student do the correct, quote unquote, correct behavior in that class, and the teacher praises them for what, oh, good job, Johnny. I'm so glad that you did what you're supposed to do. You put your pencil away, or you sharpen your pencil at the right time. Or, you know what? I see how you're treating Mary. You're so kind to Mary. You noticed that her shoe was untied, and you went down there and tied her shoe for her. Thank you for what you're doing. So what happens when the other classmates, all the peers in that classroom, start to see that there's certain behaviors that happen, and the teacher praises them for that behavior? They're learning by example, for example. All right. Another way that we can maybe put this is think about riding a bike. Right. If you know how to ride a bike, somehow you learned how to ride a bike. And often we have learned to ride bikes from watching other people ride bikes. In addition to maybe our parents or guardians or someone significant in our lives helped us out during that process. But there had to have been some sort of an example at that time in order for us to learn those steps. Okay, let's go a little further. Because with Bandura's work, there are 4 steps in the social learning theory, right? 4 steps in the social learning theory. Okay, the first step is attention. The first thing is we have to pay attention to that behavior. It has to spark our interest. If I'm not interested in, I don't know, farming, maybe that's not my thing. Okay. I could care less about how to milk a cow. Maybe that's just that. I grew up in Houston. I'm a city guy. I could care less about how to milk a cow. That's not maybe a behavior that I'm trying to pick up. Okay. Or process that I'm trying to learn. All right. So there has to be consideration of the behavior. There has to be some sort of attention. Because of that, it must be remembered. Now, if we are distracted in these times, then there can cause some delay in that process, or maybe the retention might go back to the attention piece, right? So the behavior must be remembered. Then there must be reproduction. So now, okay, the behavior sparked my attention. I like what I see, and I remember what I saw. And now I'm going to try to mimic it myself. And then finally, I'm motivated. And again, that could be in the form of some sort of reward. Okay. So again, if I see the behavior is praised, if I do something and or I see somebody do something and they get a hand claps or they get a pat on the back, versus I see someone do a behavior and I see that it's not received well. Maybe they get chastised, maybe they get yelled at. Oh, shoot, I probably shouldn't do that. That's not something I want to try, because I don't want to either get in trouble or things like that. Okay. So these are just the 4 steps in a social learning theory. All right. Now, how does social learning theory relate to our beliefs? Okay, let's talk about it. 1, observation of others. So, for example, and we talk about bias a lot, right? And my children love to jump on me about biases. Oh, daddy, you're being biased towards somebody, right? And a lot of times the things about biases we come from maybe our influence, what we watch on TV, right? But on a close-knit circle, like our families, our friends, our teachers, for example, these are individuals that maybe we hang around a lot, we spend a lot of time with, and then we maybe unintentionally, again, implicitly, we tend to gravitate towards those individuals that share a lot of commonalities with us, right? So observations of others is something. So we might see the way our parents behave, or we might see some of the things that our friends do, the jokes that they make. Those might influence us. Okay. Hopefully you can see how all of this can connect to a sense of belonging. Okay. Now, not only that, modeling examples. So, okay. So maybe my family, my friends, teacher, somebody, I picked up on something that they do. I like something that they do. I want to pick it up. So then I start to mimic those behaviors as well. And then again, I reinforce it by seeing what happens when I do these type of behaviors. What happens when I smile at someone, or what happens when I say certain things to certain people? What type of response? Is it a reward, or is it not a reward? All right. Now think about it from an advocacy standpoint. Let's take a really good advocacy example. Let's say I'm in school and I'm noticing that a certain group of students are being mistreated. Maybe they're immigrant students. Maybe they just come to America, or maybe English is not their first language. And so I'm doing my best to speak up or advocate for those students, but maybe I don't have the words to utilize. Maybe I don't know how to articulate myself as best as I would want to. Like, I know something needs to be done, but I'm not sure how to go about it. But then I have a mentor, or maybe I have a colleague who, their personality is, it almost seems as if they could care less what the repercussions are. They're going to speak their mind. And I've witnessed them speak their mind, raise their hand, or say something in the middle of a staff meeting, principal or Mr. Such and Such or Miss Such and Such. This is not right. We need to revisit this. And I watch that behavior of that colleague, and I watch how they how the response is given. Maybe their supervisor responds a certain way. Maybe the overall response from the room is a certain way. Now I had to consider, or I might consider, okay, is that the tactic that I want to take when it comes to this? I get a lot of principals, I get a lot of district folks, I get a lot of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion individuals that reach out to me. And they say, Sheldon, I want you to come to my school. I want you to come to my district. I want you to come here. I want you to come there. I want you to speak and do this training. And maybe the training's on asset-based pedagogy. I want you to tell our teachers, our staff, that every student has the capability of learning. I want you to come to school and do that. Easy. Say less. I got you. And a lot of times those individuals that reach out that I'm working with, they say, I've been literally telling the same thing every week, every staff meeting, every school year. I swear I've been saying these things, but for some reason, no matter how many times I try to drill it into my staff's minds that it's very important for our teachers to be culturally responsive, or it's very important for us to recognize our biases. I just need someone to come in and say the exact same thing I've been saying. Or maybe those same individuals like, you know what? I need this support, but again, I know it needs to change. I just don't know how to go about doing it. Can you get it started? So I can mimic that behavior, so I can mimic your approach, so that change can occur. Now, what we didn't know, and what I didn't know at the time, all of this is part of social learning theory. A lot of people will watch how things are done and the way it is received. Then they can choose whether or not they're going to speak or act that way based off of the influence that was provided when individuals received either rewards, praise, or some sort of quote unquote discipline. I can't tell you how many times staff had told me, you know, I wanted to speak up in a meeting, but I said what I said and I got shunned. And I said, I'll never speak up again. Or there's individuals that'll say, I spoke up, I got shunned, or I got called out, I got accused of this or accused of that. And I learned from that experience. And I said, I'm going to approach things differently because of how it happened. Or I saw a friend or a colleague go through this trial, go through this situation. And based off of how they went through it, I just said, I want to do the same thing, but I'm going to approach it differently. I know many of us have decided we're going to do things a little bit differently, especially if you're someone that's watching this and say, you know what, social justice, I want to be an advocate, but I've learned from my predecessors mistakes. They didn't do it right. It came too hard, maybe. Or maybe they spent too much time honing in on one area and didn't look at it from a broader scale, or they expected overnight results and didn't realize, you know, we're talking about generations of situations that need to change, and it doesn't change overnight. I've talked about microwave equity, right? My good friend Cornelius Miners brought this up to me years ago. Microwave equity. Put something in, you know, warm it up, bing, we're good to go. No, when we're talking about generations of systemic things that have taken place, doesn't change overnight. Takes time. But we can learn from people's paths and see if it's better for us to approach it differently. The next thing about social learning theory and our beliefs is the cultural influence, the societal norms that shape our beliefs. And I talk about the embracing culture in our schools, the dominant culture, the idea of, well, we accept you. We want you to come in and be like us. It's okay to be yourself, but just don't be yourself here. How cultural influence shifts our beliefs and the way that we behave, and ultimately shifts the way that our students behave. And then finally, social validation. We're in an age where TikTok, Instagram, Twitter or X, Facebook, all these different, a lot of our young kids don't use Facebook. You know what I'm saying? They using TikTok and Instagrams. But the idea of fitting in and getting acceptance from others. How many followers can I get? Right? I want followers. That's how we move. That's the age that a lot of our students are on, right? And then you got the young ones that are wanting to grow their channels. They want to grow their profiles. What's quote unquote trending? Does that ring a bell? Societal pressures of me to find a reel. That's trending audio, trending, comedy, jokes, things like that. How can I repurpose that? Why? Because people can see, oh, I played this audio for my reel. It's getting a lot of reception. There's 1,000 other people that have used the same audio and it seems to be growing. And that is going to influence how I'm going to proceed on what kind of music or audio I'm going to utilize for my own reels, for my social media. Why? Because I want that social validation, because I want to grow my channel. I want to grow my profile. I'm a victim of that myself, raising my hand. Okay. When I post reels, when I do things on social media, I'm thinking about how is this going to be received? Or did I watch someone else post a certain way? Oh, look, they got a lot of likes on that. I should do the same thing. So it influences our students and it also influences us as adults. All right. I'm going to shift gears just for a moment. Okay. We're still talking about beliefs, but I'm shifting gears for just a moment. We're going to connect beliefs to student achievement. Why is all this important, Sheldon? Why does my belief, or why is it important that my beliefs as a teacher, as an educator, as a principal, as a counselor, social worker, why do my beliefs matter when it comes to student achievement? Let's talk about it. There's a research study done in 2021, multi-country. And the results said that only 48% of teachers believed all students can learn regardless of familiar. Oh, y'all can't see this. Pull that up. My bad. Only 48% of teachers believed all students can learn regardless of familiar background or educational experience. Only 48%. Only 48. That's so low. 40. So less than half of teachers believed all students can learn. Now, if you know me, you know I used to do special ed. I was director of special education at a school, and I would confirm this, especially from our 504 IEP students. Right? I had plenty of teachers that would ask me questions. Do you think these students can do this? Do you think your child, the student, I can't tell you how many teachers that I've spoken to that asked me about students that were in our special ed program. And the question was, do you think they're capable of making it to college? Can they be college graduates? So this number, 48%, I think that makes sense. And like I said, this is a multi-country. This is not just US. This is a multi-country study. All right, let's go a little further. Talking about the work of Dr. Katie Martin. It coincides with this idea of 48% of those that believed in their students. Because it affects the way we teach. Okay? Now, and I've talked about this before, we tend to teach the way that we learn or the way we were taught. So if I'm a teacher and I don't believe that my students, or I have a low expectation for my students, so my actions towards those students aren't going to be, maybe I put in a different type of effort. Okay, maybe I'm not challenging my students because I don't think that they're capable of doing this work. Then that translates into the students' beliefs and about their capabilities, which goes into their actions and ultimately goes into their outcomes. However, if we have strong beliefs in our students and we present that through our actions, that we have strong beliefs through them, that translates into our students' beliefs, actions, and outcomes. I'm going to show you a study a little bit later on that confirms all of that. Just a simple phrase that we could utilize that can cause great impact, positive impact on our students. All right, let's wrap it up. Last piece, rather, not wrap up, but the last piece to this, okay? Summing it all together, our beliefs, how we learn things by actions, and then our beliefs in our students' abilities and how that reflects how we teach, how that overall impacts educational settings. Okay. First one, social learning theory. Modeling the formula. Again, making sure students feel accepted, supported, and included. Now, when I say that students tend to mimic their teachers' actions, or they watch their peers and see, oh, this child was praised for this behavior. How does this relate to a sense of belonging? Well, let's just say we have students that are different, that are not part of the dominant culture. And these students maybe we have a student that doesn't look like the rest of the class. Or maybe the student's behavior is a little different than the rest of the class. They're not part of the dominant culture. And that teacher takes the time to treat that student in a way that doesn't make them feel othered, that doesn't make them feel tokenized or excluded. A student is loved and embraced. And the students around his classmates, their classmates can see, oh, wait, the teacher is not mistreating the student. The teacher is treating the student great. I should do the same thing. Or maybe Johnny gives a compliment. You know what? I saw this, maybe they're at lunch and this student brings in a meal that doesn't look like the meals of others. Or maybe this is that normally students in the past have turned their nose up. Oh, what are you eating? Oh, that smells. And they watch maybe the teacher compliment the food, or maybe a classmate compliments the food. Oh, Johnny, that was so nice of you for what you said. Or Johnny, thank you so much for treating that student that way. And the other kids can see that. Oh, maybe if I say nice things, or maybe if I this seems that, maybe the student isn't what I thought they were, or maybe people like this individual aren't the way I thought that they were. Maybe my parents at home or Uncle Bob said that people like this are a certain way, but I'm realizing no, actually they're not. Not only are they not that way, but I'm seeing everybody else is treating them fine. Maybe I should do the same. See how that works? This is how we can make a positive impact just by the behavior. We are often influenced, like I said, by our family, friends, colleagues, etc. Who we choose to hang with makes a difference. And how we choose to behave based off of who we chose to hang with, or the TV station that we choose to watch, or the news stations, the websites we go to, and how we choose to respond and behave based off of that influence that we receive, or social validation that we're looking for. Because guess what? Sometimes the classroom, the staff room might feel a certain way, but you know what? It's flat out wrong. But is that social validation going to be so strong that were not willing to go against the grain because, oh, I don't want to lose my clout. Everybody seems to be talking about those inner city kids, or everybody seems to be talking about the kids in that trailer park, in that bad neighborhood. Everybody seems to have the same thoughts. Socially, I could participate in that conversation, be all good. Or is this an opportunity for me to go against the grain and say, you know what? I know it's the norm for us to talk like this and talk about these kids in this way. However, it's unacceptable. The next one is a simple phrase. A simple phrase. Let me give you some more research on this. Yeager et al. Okay, Yeager and his colleagues back in 2014, they did a study. Okay, and it's a very simple study. They took black kids that were receiving B's and C's. And what they did was they asked the students to write an essay. All right, write this essay. And once they did the essay, they turned it back in and they divided them into two groups randomly, right? The whole sample experiment, right? One group of students of black kids in the seventh, and they were all in the seventh grade. So one group of kids, they received feedback that was very standard, a nice little note that said, I'm giving you these comments so that you will have feedback on your paper, on this essay that they did, right? Then there was another group of students that received a message that was different. It said, I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know that you can reach them. See the difference? One group got, I'm giving you these comments so that you'll have feedback on your paper. The other group got, I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know that you can reach them. Now, if you can imagine, guess what happened? You probably guessed it, right? The kids that got the message that said, I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations, they did better than the students that got a standard message. A simple phrase, right? Now, with the study, the researchers said, okay, we're going to give you an option. You can actually revise, they gave them the feedback. Teachers gave them the feedback and they said, we'll give you the option to revise your paper, your essay. And the ones that got the high expectations comment, 64% of them revised it versus only 27% of the black students did not, from the regular feedback, did not. So you already got a difference. When the teachers required the students to revise, guess what happened? Okay. 88% of the students that received the high expectations message did better, while only 34% of the students that received the standard message did better. So the simple phrase, again, beliefs. We're talking about beliefs. A simple phrase. If you're not doing this already, just see, for kicks and giggles, write that on your paper. Now, here's why this is so important. Because you might say, all right, cool, I get it. But here's the thing. When we look at our teaching demographics is, I want to say it was 83 or 84% white teachers the last time I checked. However, our student demographics look different, right? We know that our student demographics are over 50% of color. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of our black students, African-American students, who are in classrooms where the teachers do not look like them. And then there's historically, there's a lot of trust challenges there. Okay. A lot of our students, and there's research that supports that students tend to do better when they have teachers or educators that look like them, that share similar backgrounds. They tend to do better. There's research that backs it. I don't have it in front of me, but there's plenty of research. You can go Google that. Okay. So when you have teachers who don't look like the students, you got a lot of students that don't trust their teachers' A lot of teachers, maybe a lot of students have seen teachers come and go. Oh, they're only there for a year. Maybe they're there for a semester. They're just doing their student teaching, whatever it is, right? They're not there long, and they see a lot of teachers in and out within their school. So they don't necessarily trust a lot of their educators. Oh, you just want me, you're just here for a paycheck, or you're just here because this test that you're giving me is just a test. I don't think you believe in me. Writing that comment, I have high expectations for you. I know that you can meet them. Can make such a difference, especially when you have students that do not look like you in the classroom. Research supports that. Okay, Yeager et al. 2014. Last one is make beliefs visible. There's one thing to say, oh, believe in all students. All students are capable of learning. But there can't be a parentheses, and within that parentheses, as long as you act and behave like the rest of the kids. How do we visibly show our students that we believe in all kids? Okay, we can show that through our support on certain initiatives, maybe Black Lives Matter or AAPI or immigrant or LGBTQ plus LGBTQIA plus, right? Are we visibly supporting those as well? Maybe we have symbols or things out there. And again, I always say, don't limit that. Don't just put a poster on your wall or rainbow on your door and call it good. Okay, our actions need to be there as well. But again, how we model, how we treat other students. I don't want to say other students because that doesn't even sound right. How we treat students, especially our students who historically haven't received the same fair treatment as everyone else, can spread. That behavior, that social learning theory, kids pick up on that behavior that we utilize on others. Okay. Final thoughts. We talked about students learn by example. We learn by example. We learn by our influences, or we're influenced by others often. Okay. Now, like I said, you might heard of B.F. Skinner. You might have heard of classical conditioning. You might have learned about the behaviorism. Dr. Albert Bandura took it a little bit further. He said, you know what? It's not just praise, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, intrinsic, extrinsic, motivation. There's more to it. He said, flat out, a lot of times we learn by example. So again, our students watch how we treat other students. They watch how we treat other peers, your colleagues. They watch that. They watch how each other, students treat each other. If they get praised for their behavior, if they do the right thing, if they say something nice, or if they treat students, we talk about, treat others the way you want to be treated. We learn that as kindergarten. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. We teach that early on. Okay? We talked about that and how that influences our students, how it influences us. So from an advocacy standpoint, if we are sitting there and we say, you know what, I want to speak up, but I watched how Mr. Jones spoke up last week, how it was received, maybe there's a different path that I want to take. I want to still speak up, but I want to approach it differently. I see a lot of my colleagues working in diversity, equity, inclusion positions. They get to a place where their confidence gets low, because I see a lot of these positions, the folks last only 1 to 3 years. Or I see, unfortunately, I see a lot of people that want results overnight. And again, when we're talking about generations, we're talking about years of injustice, or just straight up wrong, that change is not going to occur overnight. It takes time. At the end of the day, it's important for us to affirm beliefs, affirm identities that our students feel accepted, supported, and included. If you're liking the series so far, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share this with others. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. Let's continue to be a voice in leading equity.